Tonight on Cronkite News, the latest on the new state budget that will go into effect in just hours, that will support schools, veterans, and first responders.
Plus, the Navajo Nation declares a state of emergency after a fast-spreading wildfire forces people to evacuate their homes.
And 3 WNBA teams are scheduled to hit the court in the coming years. Find out when and where. Good evening and welcome to the Cronkite News. I'm Nash Dara.
And I'm E. McFarland. Thank you for joining us. We begin tonight with raises for police and firefighters. The money is part of the state budget passed last week, narrowly avoiding a government shutdown. Cronkite News reporter Eddie McCoven highlights budget wins for schools, veterans, and drivers.
The $17.6 billion budget contains some wins for projects supported by Governor Hobbs and state legislators, including pay raises for our first responders, 5% for state law enforcement officers and 15% for state firefighters. We've also got $281 million in additional funding for K through 12 schools. Also, $119 million for transportation projects, which include $54 million for improvements to Highway 347 and $27 million for widening Interstate 10 near Highway 85. We've also got $12 million for water projects and some tax breaks as well, waiving property taxes for some disabled veterans. Now, the House was able to cut some spending, but they ended up adding spending to the bill, including $2.3 million in fire incident management grants, which help local fire departments update computer systems used for reporting incidents. They also got in $1 million for a nonprofit horsemen's organization, $500,000 for grants for schools with sports programs to buy automated external defibrillators, or AEDs, and $300,000 for the creation of the Office of Defense Innovation, with the intent of making Arizona an attractive place for defense technology, research, and development. Now, some losses for the Democrats that they saw. They wanted to make changes to the school's voucher program. That did not happen. They also wanted to eliminate funding for immigration-related enforcement. There was no substantial change there either. So the new state budget actually goes into effect tomorrow. In the newsroom, Eddie McCoven, Cronkite News.
The White House and the president himself have been in touch with lawmakers all weekend long to get this bill passed.
White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt speaking today about President Trump's so-called Big Beautiful Bill. The president is pressuring his party to send the spending package to him to sign by the 4th of July. Cronkite News reporter Maria Loaiza is with us from Washington. Maria, give us a rundown. What happened this weekend?
This is President Trump's domestic policy mega bill, nearly 1,000 pages. Among the big things that this bill would do would be to increase the debt ceiling to $5 trillion and extend the 2017 tax cuts. Senate Republicans rewrote key parts of this bill, and then the parliamentarian threw them a curveball by stripping major cuts to Medicaid. That was good news for rural hospitals in Arizona, but for Republicans, it left them scrambling to find other spending cuts. Democrats are very unhappy about the proposed cuts to food stamps, Medicaid, taxes on billionaires, and spending for clean energy. They forced the clerks to read the entire bill, which took nearly 16 hours.
We are debating a budget that gives another round of tax cuts to billionaires and giant corporations on the backs of everyday Americans.
What provisions should people in Arizona keep an eye on?
There are two major provisions that Arizonans should keep their eye on. The first being the Radiation Exposure Compensation Act and the Public Land Sale Proposal. RECA is a program that has been around for decades. It compensates uranium workers and people who lived downwind of nuclear bomb tests, and it expired last year. The bill would bring the program back to life. One thing that didn't make it was Utah Senator Mike Lee's provision allowing the sale of public lands, including landmarks like Sabino Canyon in Tucson.
What else are you watching out for?
The Senate began marathon voting earlier today on amendments. We could see a final vote later tonight, and the House plans to come back to D.C. on Wednesday to finalize the bill. A few amendments we're keeping our eye on is one that would reduce Medicaid spending by $313 billion on top of the already $930 billion. Something else that we're looking at is senators will debate whether or not to let the 2017 tax breaks continue. Finally, a $50 billion aid for rural hospitals, doubling the already $25 billion expected in the bill.
Thank you, Maria Loaiza from Cronkite News in Washington.
Meanwhile, we learned today that the President Trump will host Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu next week for talks. The announcement comes as the president is pressing for a ceasefire and hostage deal between Israel and Hamas. And new satellite images shared by Maxar Technology show vehicles, excavation equipment, and a crane at Iran's Fordow nuclear facility. The images captured on June 29th show ongoing activity near the ventilation shafts and impact craters caused by last week's U.S. strikes on the enrichment complex. Former nuclear inspector David Albright, who now leads the Institute for Science and International Security, said the images show that Iranians are actively working at the two impact sites.
Back here in Arizona, the president of the Navajo Nation has declared a state of emergency because of a fire that has already burned more than 6,000 acres. The Oak Ridge fire began Saturday afternoon near Window Rock, forcing several families and animals to be evacuated, according to President Boo Nygren. The fire was allegedly started by two wood haulers who were cutting fresh oak. As of this morning, more than 400 fire personnel are working to put it out.
Coming up after the break, the NCAA settlement means big changes for some college athletes.
That's right, the NCAA has agreed to pay billions in payback damages. So what does that mean for athletes in Arizona? We'll have a one-on-one interview with the head of ASU Athletics when we return.
Plus, extreme heat warnings are still in effect, but could there be some rain on the way?
People have always had trouble trying to put me into a box. A professor, suit and tie is just not me. Without the ocean, I don't know what I would do. You know, the ocean's always been there for me. As Hawaiian people, we believe that the coral is the first living being to come out of the darkness. It's the foundation of our entire lifestyle, and that's what my research is about. What we do is we take photographs of the reef over long periods of time to create models that can tell us what the planet is doing. If we go deaf to what the Earth is telling us, then we'll never be able to live in harmony. If I can get my students excited about protecting the ocean, then they're the ones who are gonna really make the difference. I hope my students realize that I'm not trying to prepare them for something in the distant future. Their time is now at Arizona State University.
Innovation at the Walter Cronkite School is pushing the boundaries of traditional journalism.
Storytelling has evolved over the years. This is part of that evolution.
Students in the Innovation and Entrepreneurship Lab are using emerging technology to create scenes in augmented and virtual reality, coding playable games, and bringing the audience into the story.
They're only limited by their imagination and their willingness to learn.
Find out more at cronkite.asu.edu.
I'm Eddie McCoven here in the Cronkite Weather Center. Well, the extreme heat that we've been experiencing, it's not over yet. Taking a look at your currents right now, we are still in those mid triple digits, and by the time we get to 10 o'clock here tonight, we're not really cooling down a whole lot. It's going to take a few more hours for us to see some cooler temps overnight. 89 here in Phoenix, 80 down in Tucson, 54 up in Flagstaff, still going to be 90 over in Lake Havasu City. Tomorrow, though, we are still going to see some more hot temps before some cooling down. We'll talk about that cool down in just a moment. 113 here in Phoenix, 105 in Tucson, going to be 115 in Yuma. Flagstaff going to be nice, though, at 83 degrees. Now, that cool down I was talking about, here's why. We've got a little bit of a storm system that's moving in across the New Mexico-Arizona state line, and that's going to show us probably a little bit of isolated thunderstorms and definitely some showers on the eastern part of the state down in Tucson. And as we move into Wednesday, we are definitely going to see some of that moisture move its way into the valley here as well. Taking a look at your forecast over the next 8 days, we are going to be starting to look pretty nice. 113, 106, dipping down to 101 on Thursday. And 4th of July is going to be beautiful and sunny here, 104 in the valley. And we are going to see those temperatures start to creep back up just a little bit as we move through the weekend. I'm Eddie McCoven in the Cronkite Weather Center. Back to you.
As conversation continues to heat up over athlete pay, some Arizona colleges athletes can finally expect big paychecks after a recent NCAA settlement. Brandon Cadiz joins us now from the newsroom with more details on the future of NIL at Arizona State.
Yes, Steve, I had the opportunity to speak with Arizona State Athletic Director Graham Rossini about how the House versus NCAA settlement will affect Arizona State athletics this season. Rossini did not want to discuss how the money will be split among athletes, but he did say the settlement would help benefit women's sports. Title IX being, compliance being a talk of this new model, how is ASU able to ensure the gender equity among the revenue split?
Well, the Title IX has always been a driving force in all the decisions that we make. That's important for our institution. It's always been important for our athletics department. That's why we're adding over 200 scholarships. And so 85% of our athletes, both male and female, will now be on scholarship. We've added almost 100 on the female side going into next year. Female sports will be participants in rev share. So we're very much looking across our ecosystem in athletics and making sure that we're resourcing all sports, not putting these new resources into just one or two.
And I got to ask you this question. What's the revenue split going to be looking like for Arizona State athletics? Yeah,
that's not a decision that we're going to be talking about publicly. We've got a handful of sports that'll be the benefactor of it. Our focus has been on how do we resource all 26 of our sports by adding to their operational budget, increasing scholarships significantly, and making sure that we're giving all 26 a chance to compete at the highest possible level.
Will coaches and programs have an influence in that?
In terms of how the revenue share? Yeah. A little bit. I mean, we've got a method to the madness. It's, again, not a formula that's worth talking about publicly. It's something that we make a decision within our walls and with President Crow's feedback on where those dollars need to go. Naturally, football and basketball are going to be the key recipients of that. There are a few others as well. But we're in fluid conversations with our coaches about everything they need to be successful in this new environment. And I've said this a lot over the last year that we want to resource our coaches to lead at the highest possible level. We need their feedback. We need their insights on what they're up against in the recruiting trails, what they think can really help propel our programs forward, and we want to go fight to get them those resources.
And, right down the street here in Phoenix, we saw the GCU men's volleyball program being cut. Do you, dealing with that, how do you think ASU is going to protect those Olympic and non-revenue sports to prevent that from happening?
I think we've already taken a big step forward in the scholarships that we've added. And again, over 200 scholarships that are benefiting all 26 of our sports. We've had great heritage and great success in a lot of our Olympic sports. That was intended to allow them to take a huge step forward and resource scholarships as a recruiting tool in a way that a lot of other institutions haven't been able to do. I've seen maybe less than a dozen in the country that are adding significantly. There's schools in our conference that are actually eliminating scholarships for some sports to be able to put those into football and baseball and other sports to make a need. And so, increasing scholarships, increasing program budgets is intended to put all of our programs on stable footing. And we want to continue to, again, generate revenue, drive a better business in support of all 26 of our programs.
While this was only just a few topics Rossini and I discussed, other issues we touched on included how the newly enacted College Sports Commission would hold college programs accountable and how to increase revenue to fit the $20.5 million ASU has to pay athletes. Our extended version of our interview can be viewed on Cronkite News' YouTube channel. In the newsroom, Brandon Cadiz, Cronkite News.
The Cronkite Sports Report is coming up next. We'll have the latest on plans for several new teams to join the WNBA.
That's right. Plus, the Coyotes may have said goodbye to the Valley, but that didn't stop several current and former NHL players from coming back.
Hockey's such a big fabric in our community, even without the NHL.
After the break, find out why these stars of the ice have returned to the desert.
When I was younger, there were no engineers around me, so I had to become my own role model. At ASU, I wasn't just learning to be an engineer, I was actually engineering. And graduating, I already had real-world jobs lined up. Before ASU, my goal was to be a strong, confident woman. And when I left, I became a strong, confident engineer.
You meet so many new people who are on different communities, and when you do that, you're able to network not only, but also get to engage, talk to people, and make life friends.
I think that definitely surprised me, the community that I would find, because I wasn't really expecting it.
Freedom.
Friendly. Nice. I'd say cozy.
Welcome to the Cronkite Sports Report. I'm Patrick Renaud. The WNBA is expanding, but not everyone in the league is celebrating just yet. The WNBA announced it will add 3 new teams by 2030, with Cleveland, Detroit, and Philadelphia set to join the league over the next 5 years. The move comes as women's basketball continues to surge in popularity, with TV ratings and attendance climbing year after year. But some players say the league should prioritize roster expansion first. WNBA rosters are currently capped at 12 players. For teams with injuries, that means asking more from an already small group. LA Sparks forward Cameron Brink spoke out on her podcast, Straight to Cam, saying that adding more spots per team would help protect athletes and grow the game.
My opinion was that I think now rosters need to be expanded before, we add any more expansion teams. We've had, 3 people out, now we're at 10 people. It puts a lot of strain on, people that are signed to hardships, all of that.
Each of the 3 expansion teams paid a record high $250 million franchise fee. Cleveland will be the first team to hit the court in 2028. Youth hockey has been on a slight decline in Arizona since the departure of the Coyotes, but it's events like the Ultimate Goalie Showdown that keeps hockey alive. Our Kobe Mitchell caught up with some of hockey's biggest names in the Valley.
It's been over a year now since the Coyotes' exodus to Utah, but that's not stopping the hockey community from showing out in the desert, as current and former NHL players attended this charity hockey tournament.
see how the kids here going out skating. Hockey in the desert works. It does, and it's good for the kids. What ASU's doing now is incredible, and hopefully they can keep that rolling too.
And the Sun Devils have taken the reins for hockey representation in the state. The team finished second in the NCHC this past season, making it as far as the Frozen Face-Off tournament.
Hockey's such a big fabric in our community, even without the NHL, right? And so I think it just proves how much people love the game here.
And one player who reaped the benefits of youth hockey programs in Arizona is former Sun Devil Josh Doan.
It's part of what grows the game here, and we have a great time doing this and having fun. There's a lot of good kids in the area, and it's stuff that I like to do when I was little, so to see it still going is huge.
The Ultimate Goalie Showdown is an event that helps raise funds and awareness for both health and wellness within the hockey community. The event kept snowballing into something bigger and bigger, drawing out even more former NHL stars.
I think it's great for the community here. I think when I got asked about it 3 weeks ago, I don't think it was this big. But I think you can see what reach the hockey community has and how quickly things can come together.
And after a controversial goal that tied the game for Team Black with seconds left on the clock, the game went to a shootout where Josh Doan scored the game-winning goal. But the tail of the tape was a different type of shootout.
So we started a few months ago, just like as a joke between me and my friend Ryan, that I couldn't score on him, and no credit to me, but Ryan grew it to this whole big charity game.
The NHL left the desert, but Arizona never left the game. Hockey's still here, and the passion is still burning. In Gilbert, Kobe Mitchell, Cronkite News.
And the Ultimate Goalie Showdown will hit the road to Ogden, Utah at the end of August. And sticking with hockey, history has been made for the Arizona State hockey team. The 2025 NHL entry draft was held in Los Angeles this year, with players from the CHL, NCAA, and leagues from across Europe had a chance to be selected.
With the 32nd overall pick in the 2025 NHL draft, the Calgary Flames are proud to select from the Arizona State University, Cullen Potter.
Forward Cullen Potter became the first ever ASU hockey player drafted in the first round. Potter tallied 13 goals and 9 assists as a 17-year-old playing in the NCAA. He becomes the 5th Sun Devil drafted in each of the Big 5 leagues, joining Charlie Taylor, Joe Caldwell, Rick Monday, and Kim Hampton.
I mean, amazing. It's a dream come true, really. So, I'm super excited to get started with them. And like I said, I'm kind of speechless. It's a dream come true.
And Potter wasn't the only Sun Devil selected at the draft. Forward Ben Keevan was drafted 63rd overall in the second round by the New Jersey Devils. The NHL's rookie camp is set to begin on September 11th. Both Potter and Keevan are committed to playing for ASU this upcoming season. That's it for tonight's Cronkite Sports Report. I'm Patrick Renaud. Now back to Eve and Nash.
Don't go anywhere. There's more after the break.
Coming up next, a special birthday for a special fella. A tortoise in South Dakota just hit a special milestone.
This is where Cronkite can be creative.
You meet so many new people who are on different communities, and when you do that, you're able to network not only, but also get to engage, talk to people, and make life friends.
I think that definitely surprised me, the community that I would find, because I wasn't really expecting it.
freedom.
Friendly. Nice. I'd say cozy.
As a teacher, you just want to reach people. You want to make a difference. You want to help them. I have an opportunity to do something I never imagined I would be able to do. Go out and build the best biology class the world has ever seen. When you go into Dreamscape Learn, you put on a set of goggles and you can go anywhere. You can be anyone and do anything. The thing about Arizona State University is they're always thinking about what's next. We can create virtual reality experiences so that you can learn by exploring in a virtual world the way that scientists explore in the real world. And kids can feel that. All these emotions are what help the brain encode information. When I see a student come out of VR, the look on their face is nothing like I've ever seen when I finish a lecture. They look so happy to be there in that moment. You know that you've reached them.
Welcome back to Cronkite News. You know what they say, slow and steady wins the race. One tortoise in South Dakota may be deeming that old tale true.
You bet, Eve. This tortoise is winning at life.
Orville the tortoise turned 120 years old last week. On average, tortoises are expected to live 150 years old. The tortoise was gifted a taste of some delicious watermelon for his lucky day. The public was able to celebrate Orville's birthday at Reptile Gardens, greeting him with lots of cards and photos.
That's it for tonight's edition of Cronkite News. I'm Nash Dara.
And I'm E. McFarland. Thank you for joining us. And to see top Arizona stories anytime, log on to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.